You know, usually when you talk about getting a medical diagnosis, there's this basic expectation of precision.
Right, like it's a math problem.
Exactly. You break your arm, the X-ray shows a jagged white line, and the doctor just points at the screen and says, well, there it is.
It's binary. I mean, we inherently like things to be visible. We want them easily categorized into a straightforward outcome.
Yeah, but then you step into the world of complex diagnostics or, hiring or business strategy, and suddenly that X-ray machine is broken. The landscape just becomes incredibly murky.
Oh, absolutely. The clear answers vanish.
So today we are taking a deep dive into a freshly published essay from the June 2026 issue of Tech Reader magazine. It's titled Judgment as the Last Human Moat by Aaron Rose.
Which is part 5 of their Quiet Revolution series, by the way.
Right. And it argues that there is exactly one human capability left that stubbornly resists automation. And honestly, if you don't figure out what it is, your career is essentially on a countdown timer.
Yeah, I mean, in an era where every single cognitive tool automates some slice of our daily workload, we're going to explore what this remaining capability actually is. We'll look at how it functions in the brain and why understanding it is the ultimate key to future-proofing the way you work.
Okay, let's unpack this, because the essay starts with what the author calls an honest ledger. Like, before looking at what makes human cognition unique, we have to account for the staggering pace of what has already been taken off our plates.
Yeah, and the author traces this chronologically. Laying it all out reveals a really distinct pattern. I mean, the first real cognitive automation at scale was just basic arithmetic.
Right, the pocket calculator.
Exactly. It arrived in classrooms in the 1970s. And, the world obviously did not end, but as the text notes, certain mental muscles did begin to atrophy. We just no longer needed to hold complex equations in our working memory.
Yeah, and then the dominoes just started falling faster. Navigation got automated. We stopped building those spatial maps in our heads.
Oh, totally. I get lost without my phone now.
Same. And then recall, right, our ability to summon obscure facts on demand, then translation, which, that one is particularly wild to think about.
It really is. Translation used to require decades of intense cultural study. It carried this uniquely human, irreducible imprecision.
Right, and now software just handles it by rapidly learning from the statistical probability of, the accumulated translations of everyone who came before.
And that accelerates us right into the current era, where the leaps are just exponential. We're talking about pattern recognition at scales that no biological mind could ever manage.
Yeah, the synthesis of massive, disparate bodies of text.
Exactly. Producing the first drafts of literally everything. We're talking complex code architecture, legal summaries, marketing copy, and incredibly nuanced medical notes.
Wait, isn't AI currently identifying microscopic anomalies in imaging that veteran radiologists sometimes miss?
Yes, exactly. It's doing that right now.
So as someone reading this, acting as the proxy for you, the listener, trying to navigate this landscape, I have to push back a little on the author's premise here.
Go for it.
Every single time a new tool arrives, we panic. Then the tool eventually does the job, and then we retroactively say, well, that specific task wasn't the real magic of human thought anyway.
Right. The old moving the goalposts argument.
Exactly. Are we just moving the goalposts to protect our egos, or is there a genuine structural difference in what actually remains?
Well, the author anchors the entire thesis on that exact friction. They use this brilliant anecdote about a physician named Dr. Linda Marsh.
Oh, yeah, the 2 a.m. story.
Right. So picture the scene. It's 2 in the morning. Dr. Marsh is exhausted. She has everything she needs right in front of her. The imaging is back. The lab results are back.
And right beside her on the screen is an AI-assisted diagnostic summary.
Exactly. And it is incredibly confident. It's well organized and perfectly aligned. Every single piece of data points in the exact same direction.
But she doesn't sign off on the chart. She just sits there.
Right. Something in the accumulated weight of 20 years of medical practice forces a pause. She looks at this flawless AI diagnosis, and she decides to order one more test.
Which is wild because the data didn't suggest this test at all, did it?
Not even a little bit. She ordered it because she recognized an unnameable pattern. It wasn't the same patient, not the same presentation, but a ghost of a pattern from a decade ago. It taught her to hesitate when everything lines up just a little too neatly.
And the test comes back, and it completely changes the picture. The AI had entirely missed what the additional test revealed.
What's fascinating here is the author explicitly points out that the AI system was not inadequate. It wasn't broken.
Wait, really? Even though it missed the diagnosis?
Yeah, because it assembled a highly accurate diagnosis from the baseline it was given. but it could only work within the confines of that provided information. Dr. March knew to ask for something that wasn't there. That knowing what else to ask for, that is the crux of human judgment.
But wait, if these systems are so incredibly powerful at cross-referencing millions of medical records, why can't we just train the AI to know when to ask for another test?
Well, that brings us to the most critical distinction in the text. It's the fundamental difference between a decision and a judgment.
I feel like we use those words interchangeably all the time.
We do, yeah, in daily life.
Yeah.
But structurally, they are worlds apart. A decision is an act of optimization. Give an AI system a clear goal, a defined set of constraints, and massive data, and it will find the absolute best path.
Right. AI will outperform human beings at optimization with ruthless reliability, like with credit risk, logistics, fraud detection. Automated decision-making in those arenas improves outcomes drastically.
Exactly. But optimization requires a predetermined framework. For optimization to even begin, someone has to define the goal. Someone has to establish the constraints.
And those parameters are not handed down by the universe. They are a prior act.
Setting the goal is the prior act. Someone has to determine what this system should be trying to achieve, particularly in a novel situation where the historical data doesn't map cleanly onto the present reality.
Right.
You simply cannot optimize your way into choosing the right goal. That draws on something entirely outside the data set.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Because if we think about it, AI is like the ultimate hyper-efficient GPS system.
Oh, I like that analogy.
Yeah, it can calculate the absolute optimal route through 1,000 complex variables. Traffic patterns, construction zones, weather anomalies. That is a decision. It optimizes the path perfectly.
Right. But
that GPS system, no matter how much computing power it possesses, cannot tell you where you should want to go. Choosing the destination, that's judgment.
yes, the optimization is the route. The judgment is the destination. The essay actually provides two fantastic business examples outside of medicine that illustrate how this plays out in the real world.
Let's talk about Tom Caldwell. If you have ever sat on either side of a hiring table, you will recognize this scenario.
Oh, absolutely.
So Tom is an engineering manager with 11 years of experience. He uses a highly structured, modern process, a strict rubric, consistent behavioral questions, and an AI-assisted screening tool that ranks resumes based on semantic analysis.
So he is following modern management theory to the letter. He is actively minimizing human bias and relying heavily on quantifiable data.
Right. And he interviews a candidate named Jordan. Jordan just crushes the interview. The rubric scores are flawless. The AI screening flagged Jordan in the top 1% weeks ago.
By every measurable, optimizable metric, Jordan is the absolute best hire.
But Tom passes.
Wow.
Yeah. He sits with his notes for 2 days, trying to reverse engineer his own hesitation. He finally realizes it was a faint, almost sourceless pattern in how Jordan phrased a complaint about a previous team.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it wasn't a glaring red flag you could just put on an HR rubric. It was this subtle indicator of a cultural mismatch that Tom only caught because 11 years of navigating team dynamics had deposited that pattern in his brain.
The author notes that whether Tom was objectively right or wrong about Jordan is almost beside the point.
Really? How so?
The critical takeaway is that the tool could never have made that call because the tool didn't have access to the necessary information. The data lived in 11 years of unformalized, untranscribed human friction.
Ah, I see.
Yeah, it operated below the level of Tom's own articulate understanding.
But surely this doesn't just apply to subjective things like hiring culture, right? What about hard metrics? I'm thinking of the startup founder from the article, Carol Bennett, down in Nashville, right? Back in 2019.
Yes, Carol's story perfectly isolates this. Her product is performing exceptionally well. User growth is steady, retention is strong, net promoter scores are high.
Everything you want as a founder.
Exactly. Every Monday morning, her AI-assisted analytics platform spits out a dashboard full of green lights. The optimization is telling her to stay the course.
But for 3 years, she has physically sat in rooms with our customers. She has literally watched over their shoulders as they use the tool. And she watched them quietly work around a core point of friction.
And they weren't complaining to customer service, right?
No, not at all. They weren't churning. They were just adapting to a limitation.
See, the metrics couldn't see the workaround because metrics only measure what they are programmed to capture. They measure the clicking, not the sigh of frustration before the click.
Yeah. So Carol makes a massive data-defying call. She rebuilds a core piece of the product. Her team pushes back aggressively because, well, the dashboards are perfectly green. It makes no logical sense to risk it.
But she does it anyway. And 2 years later, they dominate their category.
Because tools can only measure what they are pointed at. Pointing them at the right thing requires knowing that the right thing even exists in the first place. But if judgment isn't in the data and it isn't in the metrics, how do you even quantify that gut feeling? Where does it actually come from?
Well, the essay links judgment to a concept called tacit knowledge, which is knowledge that lives in the body and the eye. You can't transmit it by writing a manual.
Like learning to ride a bike.
Exactly. Or how you can instantly recognize a friend's face in a massive crowd. But judgment goes one step further. Judgment is evaluative. It requires weighing recognized patterns against a highly personal model of what actually matters.
So it's filtering data through a value system, a sense of what is important in this specific room for these specific people toward these specific ends.
Right. Two people with the exact same information can arrive at two completely different judgments, and both can be operating correctly. They're just bringing different personal models of what matters to the same set of facts.
Like Dr. Marsh, Tom Caldwell, Carol Bennett, they all drew from a deep well of personal priorities.
And building that internal model is not a rapid process.
Wait, yeah, this statistic from the text is staggering. There is a documented threshold for when this kind of domain-specific judgment reliably distinguishes itself from informed guessing. Research on expert intuition puts that threshold at approximately 20 years.
20 years.
That is an entire generation of a career just to graduate from guessing to knowing. And it's consistent across incredibly diverse fields: medicine, chess, firefighting, military command.
We really need to look at the cognitive mechanisms behind that 20-year mark, because judgment isn't just about reading a lot of books. It involves neuroplasticity, the physical rewiring of the brain through repeated exposure to consequences.
Making mistakes matters.
Huge. When you make a call and you feel the visceral sting of getting it wrong, your brain literally alters its neural pathways. Over 2 decades, you build an immense internalized library of edge cases, failures, and subtle cues. The brain becomes highly efficient at recognizing when a current situation rhymes with a past failure.
So what does this all mean? If it takes roughly 20 years of real-world friction and consequence to physically wire the brain for this kind of judgment, what happens to the workforce when we introduce AI into the learning process on day one?
Well, the essay delivers a profound warning here, while still maintaining its honest ledger. It acknowledges the benefits first. AI can absolutely sharpen judgment for established experts.
Like Dr. Marsh.
Exactly. For someone like her, who already possesses that 20-year neurological library, the AI clears away the baseline noise. It surfaces considerations instantly, freeing up her mental bandwidth to focus purely on the complex, evaluative judgment call. It extends the reach of her existing expertise.
But then we look at the young finance analyst mentioned in the text. Imagine being a junior analyst today. For the first 2 years of your career, an AI tool does all the heavy lifting.
Oh boy, yeah.
It pulls the relevant data, it flags the anomalies, it balances the spreadsheets, and it drafts the summary reports before you've even had to sweat over the numbers yourself. The output is pristine. The reports are flawless.
This raises an important question. What about the biological cost of that efficiency? The essay argues that judgment requires productive struggle.
Productive struggle.
Yes. It requires sitting with a highly confusing problem long enough that something in your mind actually shifts to accommodate it.
Oh, wow. So when the AI hands that junior analyst the correct answer before he has even encountered the problem, it quietly erodes the conditions that generate judgment.
Precisely. If the tool tells him a revenue projection is off before he even looks at the cell, he never develops the gut instinct to feel when a number is wrong.
He never experiences the frustration of a model that won't balance. He hasn't been burned by a misleading figure.
Because the AI is smoothing over the exact friction required to build the muscle. The encounter with consequence never happens. It's a hidden compounding cost.
Think about 10 years from now.
Exactly. When that analyst is promoted to a senior role and faces a completely novel market shock that the AI has no historical data for, he will need to rely on his judgment, and he will find that the muscle has completely atrophied.
Which brings us to the title of the essay, Judgment as the Last Human Moat. Now, in business, a moat usually implies a defensive posture, right?
Yeah, a barrier protecting your professional turf from being commoditized by automation.
Right. But the author redefines this entirely. The moat isn't about defending tasks, it's about accountability.
Yes. When artificial intelligence makes speed, synthesis, and accuracy universally available commodities, Those things no longer command a premium.
What commands a premium is liability.
Exactly. In our legal and economic structures, you cannot sue an algorithm.
Yep.
A board of directors cannot fire a large language model. Accountability is a structural requirement of a functioning society.
Oh, I love how the text frames this. Judgment is the capacity through which human beings remain accountable to the outcomes of their decisions. Tools do not own outcomes.
No, they don't.
Linda Marsh owns the life of her patient. Tom Caldwell owns the toxic culture of his engineering team if he makes the wrong hire. Carol Bennett owns the bankruptcy of her startup if the rebuild fails.
The tools process data at unimaginable speeds, but only the human can carry the weight of the responsibility. If we connect this to the bigger picture, the arrival of these incredibly powerful AI tools hasn't altered the fundamental nature of human judgment. It has simply automated everything else around it.
Right. By stripping away the calculation, the synthesis, and the pattern recognition, AI has illuminated human judgment in sharper contrast than ever before.
It is the destination in the GPS. It is the liability. It is the ghost in the machine.
Well, we are coming to the end of our deep dive today, and the essay actually previews the next piece in this Tech Reader magazine series titled The Compression of Productive Struggle.
Well, that's going to be good.
Yeah, it will look closer at what it costs the human mind when the distance between confusion and clarity is instantly removed.
That feels like an essential continuation to this exact thread. I can't wait to read it.
Same here. Before we wrap up, I want to leave you, our listener, with a final thought to ponder as you navigate your own work this week. We learned that building this intrinsic moat of human judgment requires roughly 20 years of making mistakes, feeling the sting of consequences, and wrestling with unoptimized problems.
Well, man.
It really is. So, if AI perfectly smooths our paths and removes the friction of learning, will the entry-level jobs of the future have to artificially manufacture productive struggle?
Wow.
Yeah. In a world obsessed with optimizing every single workflow, will the most valuable, visionary leaders of tomorrow actually be the ones who purposefully choose to do things the hard, unoptimized way today?
That is a profound question about how we intentionally wire the minds of the next generation.
Thank you for taking this deep dive with us. As you go about your week, maybe look for those moments of productive struggle. Don't be so quick to optimize them away. They might just be the friction you need to build the one skill a machine can never replicate. We'll catch you next time.